One of the most popular elements of the Epcot International Festival of the Arts is the Disney On Broadway performances. Held 3 times every day during the festival at the America Gardens Theater, this event allows you to see different Disney Broadway performers live on stage performing both songs that they have performed in Disney Broadway musicals as well as other songs from the Disney On Broadway canon. And while this is free to experience for anyone who is visiting the park, Disney also offers a dining package for guaranteed and prime seating to these concerts to ensure that you do not have to wait in line to get into this event and that you have some of the best seating within the theater. But is this worth the price? Let's discuss the Disney On Broadway dining package for Epcot's International Festival of the Arts so that you can make the determination of if this is something that is worth doing if you are visiting Epcot during the Festival of the Arts. We're going to discuss what the performances are, what the participating restaurants are, historically speaking, and discuss how the meal itself works, as well as a specific version of the meal that only occurs day of and at one restaurant, before going into seating for the dining package compared to normal seating, and of course ending with is it worth it for the price that Disney charges for this event. So first of all, what is the Disney On Broadway concert? Every day throughout the festival, Disney will have a pair of Disney On Broadway performers on stage performing a variety of Disney songs. It is not the same show for each pair. Each pair is their own unique show. So if you are visiting Walt Disney World over multiple pairs, you do have the opportunity to see multiple different versions of this Disney On Broadway concert. Each show is tailored to who the performers are on that given night. So if you are seeing a performer who was in Frozen, you are probably going to get more Frozen songs. If you are seeing a performer that was in The Lion King, you are probably going to get more Lion King songs. However, once again, as mentioned earlier in the video, they do not solely perform songs from shows they were in. They also can perform anything of their choice from the Disney On Broadway catalog. Every day has 3 performances, and typically those 3 performances are of the same songs. And Disney does have a tendency to do something special for the end of the event, for the final day of Disney On Broadway concerts. In 2024, for instance, this was a celebration of the 10th anniversary of Aladdin on Broadway, featuring not 2, but 4 Disney On Broadway performers, including the then current Genie on Broadway, Michael James Scott, who appeared in his Broadway Genie costume. Now that you know what the concert itself is, let us switch into talking about the participating restaurants for the Disney On Broadway dining package. There are 8 restaurants that offer the Disney On Broadway dining package, 7 that offer the pre-booked version, and 1 that offers the same-day option. They are Arcachus, Royal Banquet Hall, Beer Garden, the Coral Reef Restaurant, the Garden Grill Restaurant, Le Cellier Steakhouse, the Rose and Crown Dining Room, and Spice Road Table. What this includes is, of course, different for every restaurant. A couple of these restaurants are buffets, and in that case, it just includes all of the things that anyone else would eat at that buffet. 2 of them are also notably character meals, and if you eat at one of those, then you are also getting a character meal as part of the dining package. If you are eating at one of the restaurants that is not a buffet, then the dining package includes an appetizer, entree, and dessert at that location. And each dining location is priced differently in relation to what they would typically charge for a regular meal there, separate from the dining package. So the more expensive restaurants are more expensive, and the less expensive restaurants are less expensive. And typically it is only around a $10 to $15 upcharge from the normal meal price to what you will be paying for the dining package. Like with any other Epcot concert dining package, you are paying for a specific performance time. So when you are booking, you will have to choose what Disney On Broadway concert time of that day you want to see. This does not, however, relate to when you have to eat. In addition to these restaurants, there is also a same-day option that does not need to be booked in advance for the Disney On Broadway dining package, but this can only be done at one location in the park, and that is Regal Eagle Smokehouse, and this is, of course, subject to availability. If there are no more spots for the dining package, then this may not be available, or it may sell out at some point in the day. That one you purchase at Regal Eagle Smokehouse, which is right across the way from the America Gardens Theater where the Disney On Broadway concert takes takes place, and you receive a pass alongside your meal to get into the reserved seating area for one of the 3 showings of the Disney On Broadway show that day. This is notably the only counter service option for the Disney On Broadway dining package, and it is, of course, the cheapest option as well. But once again, it is also subject to availability. Now, let us move into how seating works with the dining package. If you have ever done one of the other dining packages for a show in the America Gardens Theater, it largely works the same way. There is a prime viewing location that is reserved for only dining party guests for every performance of the Disney On Broadway concerts. This is typically the first few rows of seating in the theater. So if you want to sit in the first few rows for the Disney On Broadway concerts, your only option is going to be booking a dining package. How many rows is taken up by the dining package is typically dependent on how many people book the dining package that day. I've seen this be as low as 3 and as much as the entire covered section. While seating is reserved, it is also first come, first serve within the section. So if you want to be more center within the reserved dining sections, then you should still plan on arriving early. And I'd always recommend arriving a few minutes before the show starts just to make sure that you are fully seated before the performance begins, because they do begin right on time. This is not a real Broadway show when everything starts 5 minutes late. And typically once the show begins, Disney will stop enforcing the reserved seating area and allow anyone who wants to sit within those areas. Now on to the prime question. Now that you know how everything works, is the dining package worth it? And my answer to that is largely, it depends. If you are asking, is it worth it in order to ensure that you can see this show, then it is really not worth it, with one exception, and that being the final day of the Disney On Broadway concerts. The final day of the Disney On Broadway concerts is always the most busy by a large margin. If you are visiting on the final day and want to see whatever the special show is, then you should book a dining package. These final 3 shows are incredibly popular and difficult to get into. And not only should you book a dining package, but you should plan to get in line for that dining package early if you want any seat near the stage, potentially even before the show prior to yours ends. Once again, if you are visiting on the final day, a dining package is largely a must if you do not want to spend a lot of time waiting in line to see the show, or if you want to sit anywhere close. Any other day, it is not really needed in order to ensure that you have a seat for this show. The Disney On Broadway concerts are not as popular as other events that are held in this theater, such as the Candlelight Processional, and it is usually possible to walk up just a few minutes before showtime and get a decent seat for this show. What I would say though is if you are already planning on eating at one of the restaurants that is offering the dining package, it might still make sense to book it. The additional price for the dining package from a normal meal at any of the restaurants where it is offered is typically only around $10 to $15 per person. So if you think that that price is worth having a guaranteed seat and a better seat for the show, then it might be worth doing, just out of a convenience standpoint. But again, it is by no means required in order to enjoy this show. This is not, with the exception of that final day, a make or break situation for this show. You can still have a great time at this show and sit in a spot where you are close enough and have a full view of the Disney On Broadway concert without getting the dining package. You will not be able to sit in the first couple of rows, but you will be able to sit and enjoy this show, most likely under cover. Which also brings in the one other time that I might recommend the Disney On Broadway dining package as a more needed thing, and that is if it is going to be raining during the timing of the concerts, as the reserved seating area is under cover, and not all of the seating for the Disney On Broadway concerts is. And this might be a time to take advantage of the same day dining package offer, that if you see it is going to be raining during the time of the Disney On Broadway concert you are planning on going to, maybe you want to plan on eating at Regal Eagle that day and getting the same day dining package to ensure that you can sit somewhere where it is dry to enjoy the show. But again, with the exception of the last night, none of the shows typically sell out, although there is, of course, different levels of popularity for different Disney On Broadway stars depending on their own personal levels of fame. But even for the more popular pairs, you really should not have a problem getting a seat for these shows. There are advantages to the dining packages, especially if you are already planning on eating at one of these restaurants on your trip to Epcot, but on most days, they are by no means needed and are a nice to have, not a need to have. But I want to know what you think. Have you done the Disney On Broadway dining package for the Festival of the Arts? And if so, where and what did you think?